Hello and welcome again to the update with the Paul Whatley team. I'm joined again with Matt today as we talk about and kind of go over an update for December 2021. So today we're actually going to be talking about market update, and in particular just the dynamics of the market. We're going to talk a little bit about some tips for making sure your home is prepared for the winter. And we're going to finish it all up with our favorite topic, college football. So if you're watching the update and you enjoy kind of what we're talking about and just the format that we have, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification button so that you don't miss our next update or other videos that we publish throughout the month. So with that, Matt, I know that we've been talking about it for a little while, but we've just really seen a lot of dynamics in the market recently. We've continued to see, throughout this year, 2021, prices have increased, but we've also seen a lot of kind of just up and down with those home prices. What's been your take with a lot of that over the year?
Yeah, so I mean, dynamic is the perfect word. It's ever changing. It's been busy all year. It's still busy. I think a lot of times people assume that because it's the holiday season with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, that things slow down, but that's not necessarily the case. And given that this has been a record and historic year, it's definitely not the case. We have seen certain aspects change, though, and that's why we use the word dynamic, because earlier in the year you had lower priced homes underneath that $300,000 mark that were just going in days, sometimes hours it seemed like. But now we've seen a lot more coming on the market in the past couple months in our area and staying for a few days longer, maybe a week, which for the buyers that are still looking right now, that are still engaged and kind of trucking along, it gives them that extra opportunity maybe to do another showing or just to get some more time to settle and think on it, which has been good. Um, Conversely, I think those higher priced homes, we're seeing those kind of dwindle here in the winter months, whereas they were more readily available over the summer.
Yeah, I mean it's we've seen this, and one of the interesting things we saw it kind of start happening around late August and September, but a word and a practice that we haven't seen for much of 2020 and 2021 was negotiations. But in fact, we've actually been seeing where as market conditions have either remained the same or begun to fluctuate a little bit, that we are seeing where buyers and sellers are negotiating, not necessarily on price, but they are negotiating on some of those other terms, whether it be repairs or other aspects. And a lot of this has been driven, as we talked about in a previous update, that a lot of the price increase that we've seen over the last 2 years has really been driven by the low interest rates. Matter of fact, when you look at over the last 52 weeks, so going back to December of 2020, interest rates have ranged from 2.75, so 2.75, all the way up to 3.45 as kind of an average from what I use mortgagenewsdaily.com. Not sponsoring this video, maybe they should be, but Mortgage News Daily, is a great resource that we can track a lot of those numbers. Currently, we're seeing that interest rates are right around 3.25, so 3.25, which is up slightly from where we were at the end of November. But we've also seen some fluctuation because the very end of November, November 30th, the average mortgage rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage was right around 3.14. And so it's not even though interest rates are creeping up, it hasn't been this huge jump, which means that it's still a good time to sell. The other thing as we see this dynamics with the interest rate, because we saw this last year. Last year, we saw a lot of economists, talking about how they anticipated interest rates by the end of 2020 we're going to be closer to 4%. We heard it again this year that interest rates were going to be 4% or higher by the end of 2021, and we're already hearing that same kind of talk now. And is it going to happen? Eventually, yes. Interest rates, we do think are going to creep up because of other economic factors. And what this means for sellers is that you may see a little bit less competition for your home. So there's still going to be a lot of buyers out there because interest rates are still good. But it means that a little bit less competition, and prices, instead of continuing to go up, prices are going to start to stabilize as that interest rate creeps up a little bit. So something definitely to be on the lookout for. So Matt, tell me a little bit more. What else have you seen in terms of home pricing? Over this kind of winter and third quarter or fourth quarter that we're in right now.
Yeah, so we've seen a little bit of, I think, a pullback in some of the maybe overpricing that we had seen, or the high bidding. And I think the fact that we're still seeing projections for 2022 of that interest rate, and most of these financial institutions are projecting it's going to stay in the 3%. So that's good news for buyers and sellers, because again, buyers are going to have that buying power, that spending power, and with prices coming back to a little bit more competitive, I think you're going to see just as much activity this year. We're hoping for more even next year. It's also good for sellers because it's still a good time to sell. But the important thing to know about that is don't sell until you're ready to sell. So you don't need to jump into it right now. There's nothing we're seeing that says this is going to end anytime soon in the next few months. So if you are thinking about selling next year, it's not time unless you're ready. But along those lines, still, as long as you're a home owner, you want to make sure that you're taking care of that home, whether you're planning to sell next year or 5 years from now. So with that, we've got. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's actually something we talked about in one of our other videos, which we'll include a link to. But the Absolutely. Idea of like always be prepared to sell, and so. It's very important, even as you're trying to make that decision, make sure that you're taking care of your home and always kind of ready to make that move when it's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've got a couple keys that we want to share for winterization, winter maintenance of your house. The first thing, if you're putting up your Christmas lights and decorations now, I know some of you guys are putting them up before Thanksgiving, and we can talk about that later, but if you're putting them up now, make sure that you take a chance to check out your gutters. If you've got leaves and debris up there, take some time to clean that out so you're getting good irrigation, flow of water off of the roof so that you're not having any damage up there. Also take a look at your shingles. Just make sure you don't see any cracked, broken, or missing while you're up there. Another good thing to do is to unhook all your hoses. So when you were watering stuff in the spring and summer, even into the fall with those mums, now that that's over, make sure you disconnect those hoses, turn off the outdoor faucets, and drain the hoses. It's going to hold them up and be useful for you for much longer. Lastly, it's a good time to make sure, if you haven't already, that your heat source has been serviced. So your heat pump, your furnace, call your local company, your provider that would come out and just do a diagnostic of it, make sure that it's running well, make sure you don't need any repairs, because if your system's not working, you may be looking at higher heating bills, expenses if it's overworking. So it's a good thing to do. If you've got log sets or propane appliances that you're using for heat, consider having those serviced and cleaned so that they function better.
A lot of people don't realize it, but when it comes to maintaining your home, a lot of the damage that we see to a home, a lot of it occurs, or the problems start to occur during the wintertime. So cleaning out your gutters is definitely a really important tip. And also having those pipes, those downspout extenders, so when that water comes off the roof and through the gutters, that it gets at least 6 to 10 feet away from the foundation of your house. So what else do we need to be looking forward to as we prepare for the winter?
So my favorite part of December, aside from Christmas, which is most people's favorite part, is actually bowl season. We've talked about college football on our updates in the past. Everybody knows we are big college football fans. We are filming this after championship weekend, so we know what the playoff looks like. We know who is going to play where and what bowl game. So with that, Mr. Paul, what would you like to say about the Bulldogs?
Actually pretty excited about the lineup that we have. Georgia's going to be playing Michigan in the Orange Bowl, and I think that's going to be a really good game. I think that you've got two very dynamic teams. The key for Georgia is definitely going to be in their defense secondary, and I think that's where they lost the game to Alabama. I mean, Bryce Young for Alabama is just as much as I love Stetson Bennett, for Georgia. Bryce Young is just a phenomenal quarterback, and you give him and the receivers for Alabama even just a little bit of room, and they're going to take advantage of it, and that's exactly what we saw in the SEC championship game. So I think that if Georgia can, really study and prepare for Michigan, I think having this break is going to be good for both teams after a long and grueling season to kind of rest and recover. And I think we're going to see a really good game there. I think that's definitely going to be the best, first round bowl game that we have is Georgia and Michigan.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to end up being the most competitive game. Alabama at the 1 spot's playing Cincinnati at the 4. That's interesting for a number of reasons. And you mentioned there the mentality when you're the number 1 team. So I'm curious to see if Nick Saban always talks about rat poison. If you've seen any of his interviews, so curious to see how Alabama comes into that game. Are they going to take it serious? Are they going to take Cincinnati lightly? I think it's a big opportunity for Cincinnati to put on for the group of 5 who's been misrepresented. Luke Fickell, he's got to have some stuff in the bag, some tricks, trick plays, weird things that they haven't shown in order to stay with Alabama. I think in the end they'll pull it out, but I hope it's competitive. I hope they can shock the world for a little while.
So, and other big news with college football, Virginia Tech, not the season that the Hokies were hoping for, but some good news on the horizon. So, what's going on with the Virginia Tech coach?
Yeah, so when we filmed our first video in October, I think I mentioned something about a coaching change.
Yep.
So I don't want to say that I was right, but I was. I'm excited. So they ended up getting Penn State's defensive coordinator, for those that don't know, Brent Pry, who has been at Penn State for 8 years. He's coached a number of NFL players. Anybody that's watched the NFL has seen Michael Parsons this year with the Cowboys. That's his guy. So I'm really excited. I think he fits Blacksburg. He actually coached under Beamer in the 90s for a couple of years as a grad assistant. So he gets the culture. I think defensive football, that's what we want to be playing in Virginia Tech. So that's going to be coming back. I think I'm curious still to see who his offensive coordinator is going to be and then whether he can recruit. He's been stealing Virginia guys from us to Penn State for years. So if he can keep them home, he can get an offensive-minded coordinator to come in and take care of that side of the ball. We might be looking at the glory days again. Beamer ball's coming back.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. It's Virginia Tech has such a great culture, and I think that with the right coach that understands that culture and can build upon it, could be looking at some great years of college football ahead for the Hokies. Now, gotta give him a little bit of time. It may take a year or two to put it together, but I think once he gets it together, it's going to be good.
Now, I can't finish this video without also mentioning the fact that with our interim head coach, we went to Charlottesville and we beat UVA still. So,
that's right. Go Hokies. Well, that I think pretty much wraps it up for this edition of the update. In time, we wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Enjoy this time of just Thanksgiving and gratitude. Love your neighbor, love your community, shop local, enjoy this time, enjoy some college football or NFL football as we move into the playoffs and bowl season, and we look forward to talking to y'all again soon after Christmas.
We'll see you in 2022.